How are you doing, everyone? Hope you're having a good day, because I am. Today, we get to take a look at a Harman Smith video. Personally, I wanted to take a look at something else, but as you can see, that didn't go to plan as I could not find all the information necessary. So maybe that will be my next video, because Neil Druckmann, very shitty man. But that will just give you a hint, and we'll leave it there. So, let's get started by looking at the basic thumbnail and title of this video, to understand what we are dealing with this time with Harman. As you can see, we are off to a good start. Third-party developers claim the Switch is too underpowered to play games that are already easily ported to PS4. Fuck me, that took me way too many times to say. Now, I have one more thing to show you that I think is very fucking funny, and it shows a little bit of an insight on what Harman really is. You can take a read through this, but if there's one thing you should notice straight away, every time Harman has posted, he gets more than 10 likes. I'm not saying he's boosting his ego by getting people to either like it or have alternate accounts, but I'm just saying that could be a possibility. It really wouldn't surprise me if he did. He seems like the type of person. But without further ado, let's go take a look at his video and let's see what points he has to say.
Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Eye of the Dragon, Cruel and Beautiful Rabbit Hole Lore and Frey, and the upcoming Jaw of the Dragon.
Oh shit, another confession. Well, I have an idea. I have nothing to say. So everyone, put your hands together, let's pray, and repeat these after me. The horrors are never ending, yet I remain silly. That is it. I hope I've inspired you, and that is my TED Talk.
Well, it's time for me to start talking a little bit more about the alternative platforms, the ones that nobody wants to play on, but everyone wants to pretend are the next big thing. Xbox and PlayStation. This has been a thing on my mind for the past several months or so. There's a lot of topics to talk about when it comes to Xbox and PlayStation and what they're doing right now and how they can't compete with Nintendo.
Well, you had everything going for you, and you shot yourself in the foot. Harman, you know Nintendo has been relegated to a pretty niche area of gaming, right? They're one of the big three, don't get me wrong, but they're still a niche. They aren't comparing to the same level as a console. Yes, you would expect a handheld device to have more players, of course, but I have heard little to no information about anything they're doing. I only know that one game is coming. Was it Zelda Tears of the Kingdom? I don't fucking remember it anymore. That's how little I hear about this thing. And I'm someone that tries to keep up to date with just overall gaming industry shit. And that's pretty hard when Nintendo is just sitting there, double cheeked up, not doing anything. I mean, you guys got a pretty big W recently. If I'm correct and I read it right, you also get COD and all of Game Pass on Nintendo Switch. You get to play fucking Halo, Gears of War, Fable. Hopefully I read that right, because they did word it in such a way.
But right now, I do think the narrative has kind of like they've kind of established a narrative at this point, is that like Switch is going to get left in the dust because Xbox and PlayStation are too powerful.
I don't think it's they're too powerful. It's the Nintendo Switch has not been updated or seen a new version to it that is comparable to the Steam Deck. Now that people have the Steam Deck, they kinda realize what you can do with a handheld device. And the Steam Deck is pretty fucking good for what you're buying. Don't get me wrong, nothing can ever run Crysis Remastered. Not even the Steam Deck. Not even my 3090. There's a joke from the ancient times. Be happy that I did your comedy.
And the real game developers, the third parties, they have to develop for the new powerful hardware, because only that piece of hardware can support the games that they want to make. And I really want you guys to think about this narrative. Really think about it hard, because
I don't think there's much thinking anyone needs to do. The Nintendo Switch is so old, making a game that people want to make now is pretty not viable. It takes fucking common sense, Harman, please, God. Like I said, if they make something comparable to the Steam Deck, then they've got a winning number.
We have not fully transitioned over to next gen yet. People don't want to admit it, people are ignoring this, but Elden Ring, Hogwarts Legacy, and Resident Evil 4 are all available on last generation platforms. That's right.
First off, you're wrong. Those new gen consoles are now current gen. A lot of people have their hands on them now. Everyone, a lot of my friend group that I played For Honor with, have one. Now they can stop bitching about fucking 30, 60 frame bullshit. They're all still garbage at the game, of course. And especially with Elden Ring, as an example that you used, not many people did have a new, well, current gen console. But now that it's become more accessible, they're probably going to release the DLC only for current gen. Maybe not old gen. It depends on how FromSoft wants to go about this. And for Hogwarts Legacy, I don't even know if that will even run on launch. It can barely even run on current gen. I mean, it was most certainly not fucking Last of Us Part 1 remake. That shit's fucking terrible.
RE4 Remake is available on the PS4. Hogwarts Legacy is available on everything, in PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch.
I bet your ass they're going to cancel that. It genuinely will not run at all. If it can't run on PC properly, it's definitely not gonna fucking run at all on Nintendo Switch.
Coming in July. And of course, Elden Ring got last-gen versions for PS4 and Xbox One. I really want you to think about this for a minute. Isn't it interesting how developers have no problem developing cross-gen ports for PS4 and Xbox One, but conveniently, every single time, they seem to skip the Switch version?
Harman, I'm gonna repeat myself again. The Switch is so underpowered, it could barely even run it properly. Especially Elden Ring. The Steam Deck has trouble fucking running Elden Ring.
Right? Every single time, they make up some excuse, some justification, and try to pretend that the Switch cannot run their games. And that simply is not the case. Switch absolutely can run Resident Evil 4 Remake. It can run Elden Ring. It can run Hogwarts Legacy. It's getting a late port, but it is coming. It can run all these games.
How would you know? Come on, tell me. How would you know that they can run this? Do you have any technical proof that it can run? Do you have any experience that games like that can run? Look, I'll show you my game engine, World Builder. Look, my PC can barely run that, right? It still fucks me in the ass. And that's how many years old? 12 years old? To see you say that it can run this stuff is genuinely impressive. You know full well they cannot. And to say that they are making excuses and justifications to why they aren't releasing it on Switch is fucking stupid of you to say that. No shit, none of these games are going to run. No shit, Resident Evil is not going to run on Nintendo Switch. Why do you think they would put that on there when you can barely even run some of the games you put on there yourselves? Some of you may be asking, why did I show this? I kinda just wanted to show off what I'm doing in my free time. Maybe you get to come play it if you got Command & Conquer 3. On top of that, I just wanted to show how long it took to load and how it slightly freezes up whenever you do anything.
That's right. It did run Doom Eternal. I remember back when people were trying to say it couldn't run Witcher 3, right? I remember...
Poor choice of words, Harman. I've seen pictures of what The Witcher 3 looks like there, and oh my fucking god, it looks like shit. I'm surprised they had to remove so much shit just to make it run. Kinda looks like Play-Doh, honestly.
Picking up excuse after excuse after excuse about why developers can't support the Switch. And
hey Harman, Nick, that's crazy. I don't remember asking.
And now with this next generation of hardware, they're going back to their old tricks of pretending the Switch is so weak it can't handle these things. But the thing is, the Switch isn't being
Harman, it's really bad if you can't come up with a reason. Genuinely, that does not help anything you're saying. Any type of argument or case you're trying to make just made it look even worse because of you taking your time to think there. This is why you should write some notes down before you say stuff.
The reason the Switch is not being supported has nothing to do with the hardware power. It has everything to do with Sony and how they pay off developers to not support Nintendo hardware.
Well, that's Sony's business strategy. And no shit, it's the hardware's fault. I like how you just completely avoid the actual problem with the Nintendo Switch. That is depressing. And I think you're just taking the piss, and you know full well it is the hardware.
We know this happens, it was in their Monster Hunter World contract. It's they don't care about Xbox, especially in Japan, but they specifically want to drive Nintendo out of the hardware space. So this is the...
Honestly, I don't think they need to do much to move them out of the hardware space.
The thing that's been happening for years, right? Across a wide range of generations. It's why you see so many Japanese developers attack Nintendo and make weird statements about it, like that Danganronpa guy who tried to pretend he didn't know what a Switch was, right? You have Negoshi refusing the port Yakuza to Nintendo consoles. You have all these Nintendo all these Japanese games that are clearly lower end and clearly are able to be ported to the Switch.
You just admitted that Nintendo can only run lower end games. You just destroyed your own argument. I feel secondhand embarrassment.
Yakuza is a great example. Persona was a great example. But, like, coincidentally, they don't come until, like, way after the other versions of the game. And it's entirely because, like, PlayStation is specifically trying to...
Not like it's just hard to optimize a game that's either meant for console or PC for a handheld device. It's clearly it's an exclusivity right that's holding it back. Has
always used third parties to try and to weaponize them against Nintendo by presenting this narrative that, like, oh yeah, all this variety from all these other developers, like all the real talent in the industry is on our platform. So even if, like, Nintendo gets, like, a Resident Evil 2 port or something, like, oh man, like PS1, it has 1, 2, and 3, right? It has the best version of all those games. So why would you get a Nintendo console, right? Like, even though that, like,
Personally, I never actually did find a reason to get a Nintendo. I mean, yeah, it would be cool to play Zelda, but honestly, I have no need to. I like how you say that it's all, like, Nintendo getting fucked in the ass by PlayStation's, like, exclusivity deals. Xbox has been taking it up the ass just as bad as Nintendo. And now that this is now turning the tables on PlayStation, they're being all fucking sooks about it, and then now you get COD.
There was nothing really stopping Resident Evil from coming to Nintendo hardware. It was, from a technological perspective, it was entirely just a business thing, right? Final Fantasy VII was the same way. Metal Gear Solid was the same way. Like, unless Nintendo cuts a deal with a company to, like, produce an exclusive title, like a timed exclusive title, like what happened with Live Alive and stuff like that. Like, a lot of these games just do not come out on Nintendo hardware at all. And it's entirely because of how nepotistic Sony is and how much control they have over the industry. And so many people don't understand this. So many people, like, genuinely seem to think it's about the hardware while ignoring the fact that, last gen pieces of hardware.
My ass would have stayed in the primordial soup if I knew there was gonna be days like this.
Yeah, I hope I scared you. Harman, stop avoiding the problem.
PS3, old generations of PlayStation, get supported for a ludicrously long time, right? PS2 was getting new games until, like, 2012, right? Like, Persona 4 came out in 2008, right? Like, the Vita got support, like, despite selling, like, 13 million units, like, less than the Wii U, I think. Like,
well, I can't be fucked looking up how many units it sold, but that sounds like a pretty impressive number if it's 13 million below. If it sold like 2-3 million, that's still an impressive amount. But personally, since you didn't tell anything, I can't be fucked looking it up. Skill issue, get better. On top of that, the way that you worded it really makes it sound like it did leave an impact.
Real corruption in this industry, right? Again, it has nothing to do with the hardware. And I really want this myth to die. I really want people to, like, look around and realize that, like, the narrative they're pushing just does not make any sense. Switch can't run video games? Like, are you serious?
Harman, it's not a myth. We've been through this many times. Switch is shit. They need something to compete with Steam Deck. Then you have something to argue about. I'm not going to say this again. I'm fucking sick of it.
Developers are making games too ambitious to the Switch. Where are they? Like, I don't see a single game on PS5 or Series X that can't run on Switch, right? Like, there's nothing like that. Despite what you've been saying all this time, despite, like, your arguments, like, I've never seen a game like that.
Have you not seen The Witcher 3? That shit looks terrible. Honestly, it's kind of depressing how much they have to sacrifice towards the game itself just to get it to operate on Switch.
People are just screaming at you about how the Switch is inferior because it's underpowered, without really taking into consideration that the Switch simply has the better games. It is simply a better experience, And right now
yes, game is better equal better hardware. Oh boy. I can say that this only gets worse from here. Yes, I am gonna jump cut through a lot of the stuff, as now we're at that point where he just starts repeating himself.
They're trying to use, like, emulation and piracy as, like, a cope. Like, I see so many people, like, try to justify the Steam Deck as being successful because, like, oh, you can just play all the Nintendo games on it, which isn't true.
Of course it's not true. We can play a majority until we get, like, assassinated by Nintendo because they don't like people preserving games for some reason.
And I'm very curious to see just what people will be doing like 10 years from now. When piracy starts getting cracked down on, when people begin to see through like the hatred and just the narrative, and like when people start growing past it, honestly.
Yeah, no, it's gonna continue happening, Harman. As long as Nintendo continues to not allow us to preserve the games that they're refusing to do themselves, we're gonna continue doing it. With that being said, boys, this is the end of the video. I'll see you boys all later. So, with that, leave a like, subscribe, join my Discord. We need more active people.